Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the January 20th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitter stream, iHeartRadio, and, of course, email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Catch all of our shows by going to our WCPT or subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, the short and long versions. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform and be able to access and share lots of stuff with your friends and family and loved ones and business associates, and even the hard-headed people in your world that just keep acting like that, you know, nothing's happened, and why do I have to care about politics, and why do you guys, you know, always talking about this political stuff, and the people who go 34-time convicted felon, they wouldn't refer to him that way, I would, is wonderful. He's the best thing. He's the best thing in the world. Every Republican president has been the bestest thing in the world. Well, I got some data for you guys on some, Democratic presidents over the last 100 years and how they've played the game. But that being said, guys, check us out at all of our social media platforms and make sure that you are sharing information with the people out there that you care about. Today is a big day, as every day is. It's MLK Day. And yes, you know, we don't hide from things. Today is the inauguration, is inauguration day. And there are a lot of people that are going to, have different things that they're going to do today. As I've said, lots of people have said to me, Richard, I'm not watching this. I'm not going to be a part of this in any way at all, other than to do something good for myself and celebrate the fact that it's MLK Day. And lots of people all over the country, frankly, all over the world, do celebrate this day, do pay homage and recognition to what Dr. King represented, and didn't always hit the mark. You know, we know that. He didn't always hit the mark, and he had his issues. However, he was out there fighting the fight every day from all over the world. Renowned speaker, renowned minister and pastor, and a guy that just, you know, said, I'm going to lean into the things that need to be leaned into, whether it be unionizing, whether it be marching, whether it be the boycotting that took place to prevent businesses from just running roughshod over employees. Dr. King even had a position on the Vietnam War. And there's a lot of speculation. There's all thoughts, maybe speculation is not the word anymore, but just a lot of thoughts and research and review and look at history as to the reason that Dr. King was assassinated. In my experience, my observation, the reason that Dr. King was assassinated is because he was and this is a broad brush with some specifics, but the broad brush that I'll put out there is that he was galvanizing Americans to fight against the system. And so those are fancy, broad words. It was about civil rights. It was about rights of black folks, without a doubt. We were less than 100. We were just barely 100 years past enslavement, and fully into having come off of 3 wars post enslavement, and then entering another war at the front end of that. Dr. King felt that we were wasting resources in that space. So the war, his position on the Vietnam War was noted, and his position on so many topics were very noted, and he spoke to them. So these are my observations, and as I was putting together my notes, I would share these, and I'll probably float in and out during today's show about that. But My observations of Dr. King were of a person who was willing to stand up and fight. And a couple of the clips that Henry and I put together talk about that today, and standing up and fighting and knowing where you stand and what you stand for. As a phrase has often been used, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I think that we have to recognize the people that stand in the void. Today we have two of our guests, co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy, Demario Cooper, will be with us in the 6:30 hour. So I'm looking forward to having him on this morning. And then as part of the MLK breakfast Operation Push event that takes place on MLK Day every year, and I've attended it a handful of times over the years, we have the head of the Sierra Club. That would be Ben Jealous, who is giving the keynote speech this morning at the breakfast, which is going to be over at the museum campus area this morning between 8:30 and 10:30 is when that event will be taking place. And Ben Jealous, who is the president, CEO, executive director of the Sierra Club, formerly the head of the NAACP, will be giving that presentation this morning. And he's even going to be with us this morning in the 7:30 hour. All things in order. We will be hearing from him, and I'm excited about that. He brings a great message, and I've said this, that he's one of those voices that can reach a lot of people of all backgrounds. And so I'll tease him about this, but watch out for Ben Jealous in this next cycle, because he has the stature physically. He has the emboldenment. He has the knowledge. He has the experience, which I say are two different things. They merge together. They're pretty dangerous. The curiosity and all. But we'll talk about that a little bit this morning. I like the dude, and I respect the work that he's doing. And he understands how our legal system works. So Ben will be with us in the 7:30 hour. So that's going to be a part of our show. We've got a busy week. We've got folks this week that are going to be from different areas of local service to national service. And I'm excited about the guests that we have throughout the course of this week, from authors to attorneys to a couple of managing directors that are working with some local organizations. We have a couple of state reps that are going to be with us, and some other local organizers and medical professionals. And then on Friday, hint, hint, we might have a locally elected official here with us on Friday. It might be known as Mayor Brandon Johnson. So there you go, guys. We've got a full week for you guys, and I'm excited about being able to bring you all that. And hopefully it will keep you informed and keep you guys sharp as we go forward. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in our world in terms of what's going on with Choose Views News this morning. TikTok says it's restoring service, and it's amazing how in a matter of hours these things can change one direction or another. But that number of 170 million U.S. users, after they say that President-elect Donald Trump provided necessary clarity and assurance, we will see how that plays out. That after taking office, and some of the users are reporting they've regained access, that the app went dark late Saturday, shortly before TikTok ban was set to take effect. There's some information that we should all know about Donald Trump when it comes to TikTok. And I'll just hit this real quickly so we can get through. Capital One fixes a banking outage. This took place as well. All customers have access to their Capital One accounts again, according to the company, after a third-party vendor lost power and some services were disrupted over the weekend. The outage affected deposits and payment processing. We sincerely, quote, apologize for how frustrating this experience has been, Capital One's customer service account said in one statement on social media. It was a challenging week for Capital One, which was sued on Tuesday for allegedly suppressing interest payouts to customers. Wow. MBA grads struggling to find work. Wow, the job market for professionals has become so challenging that even graduates with MBAs from Harvard are having trouble finding work, according to the Wall Street Journal. About 23% of Harvard alums from last spring were still job hunting 3 months later, up from 20% in 2023 and 10% in 2022, per the school. comes as companies like Amazon, Google, and Google reduce their MBA hiring, prompting graduates to explore contract work or side gigs. Workers are also split on outgoing one-to-ones. What does that mean? Do executives need private FaceTime with their bosses? Not according to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who said to have eschewed the practice during his time at the helm of the tech giant. Ethan Evans, a former Amazon vice president, explained in a widely read LinkedIn post this week that senior leaders under Bezos were expected to handle their projects and relationships without help from higher-ups. Meeting time, he says, was for decision-making instead of planning. And we wonder what's happening with our leadership. RTO, return to work, a deal breaker for many workers. As some employees resist return to office mandates, nearly half of remote workers say they might quit their jobs if they lose that flexibility, per the Pew Research Center. Of those, 26% said they would be very likely to stay. Younger workers, women, and those less satisfied with their jobs would be more likely to leave, while most hybrid workers prefer a mix of home and office work, even if they were allowed to be fully remote. And that makes sense. Power dynamic tips for more bosses. A few years after COVID, now that we're a few years after COVID era labor shortages that gave employees an edge, bosses now have the upper hand, even if they're flexing it in more subtle ways, according to the Wall Street Journal. It notes that earlier, quiet quitting, what did they do, just slip out the back door, where workers would do bare minimums, has given way to quiet cutting. That's where employers nudge workers out without fanfare by enforcing return to office mandates or by denying bonuses or other perks. Just cutting folks and hurting folks. Come on, businesses. But I'd like you guys to hear about these things because these are some of the things that don't get talked about, and people wonder, how in the hell did that happen? Egg shortage is our last story. Hits store shelves. Egg prices have been rising for months, but the avian flu's spread has recently caused the kitchen staple to all but disappear from many supermarket shelves in some areas, per CNN. The last 2 months of 2024, more than 17 million hens died as a result of the virus, pushing egg prices 25% higher by year's end than they had been in early November. Experts say it could take months for the shortage to ease. So, egg price is going to go down. Not if there's a shortage of supply. Basic economics, guys and gals. Supply and demand. There it is. I had an interesting thing to talk about supply and demand for a moment, and we're going to hit this quick break. I was in northwestern Indiana this weekend for a little bit. Why? I got to meet our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 and his wonderful wife Diana, and got gas. Okay, and at a station that wasn't in South Bend proper, just a little bit out, and it was a certain price, and then was in another part of Indiana, and a little bit more populated, and looked at gas prices, and they were 33% higher. So people need to understand supply and demand, guys. And that has a lot to do with the pricing of goods. If chickens are dying, the cost of eggs is going to go up no matter who's president, Anyhow, let's take a quick break, guys. When we come back, I've got a couple clips I want you guys to hear. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So, people say, not people, there are folks on the right, namely Trump and his minions and Mike Johnson and that crew that are saying that they have a mandate in terms of their agenda and legislative agenda. Here's the real math. 31.78% people voted for Trump. 30.84% voted for Harris. Okay? 1.6 voted third party. But this is going to blow y'all away. And this is where our opportunity as progressive liberal Democrats has to land. 36.33%, Henry, did not vote. So not only does Trump not have a landslide or not a mandate, that's the opportunity for the progressive liberal Democratic conversation is to dig into that 30. We got to figure out how to get that 36.33%. The third party vote, we wasted too much time on that, candidly, talking about the 36.33. And I believe that part of the course of action to get to that, those folks, is every day, minimally every Friday and every Monday, the Democratic leadership on a federal level and candidly on a state and local level needs to be talking about what they're doing, what we're doing to fight back against the craziness that's coming and to show why the craziness is hurting Americans rather than helping, and to show how the new direction that the progressive liberal Democratic message can have will be better for the country. Hold on to that 30.84% and grab 8, 10, 12, 15% of that did not vote. That's the winning strategy. It just is. Find out who they are, maintain the base, who voted, and then go get that 36%. Get part of that. That's the winning. It just is. It's not rocket science. The question is going to be, will the and the message, see, don't change the message, y'all. Don't mess around and change the message. Please don't change the message. Change who it lands on. Change the mechanisms that are used and be consistent with that message. It ain't rocket science. Listen, DNC, y'all hire me and we'll get this junk done. Hire me and Eric Grant and Natalie Ziemba and folks like that. Hire us. We'll get it done for you. That, seriously, that's the winning solution. It's also putting up candidates that are good politicians, that are smart, that understand economics, that understand the business of politics. But also, if you watch Saturday Night Live this weekend, you saw comedian Dave Chappelle really speak to something that he made as an observation. And this is also who we need to be electing. What he talks about, what we should be, who we should be, and how we should be electing people to our offices as elected officials. Let's play that clip, Henry.
Because Jimmy Carter died. Now, I got to tell you, Jimmy Carter, who will go back and forth and say he was a bad president or a good president, I'm not qualified to even speak on that. But I'll tell you this. I was in the Middle East years ago. After I quit my show, I was trying to find out what I wanted to do with my life. And while I was there, Jimmy Carter flew to Israel. So everybody in the region was talking about a former American president being in the Middle East. And while he was in Israel, a book of his was released, and his title was very controversial in Israel. And the title of the book was Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. And people were very mad in Israel. There was a lot of mean stories that came out in the paper, but some people were supportive. And while he was there, Jimmy Carter said, I want to go to the Palestinian territory. And the Israeli government said it's too dangerous. And if you go, we cannot protect you. And man, Jimmy Carter went anyway. I will never forget the images of a former American president walking with little to no security while thousands of Palestinians were cheering him on. And when I saw that picture, it brought tears to my eyes. I said, I don't know if that's a good president, but that right there, I am sure, is a great man. It made me feel very proud. The presidency is no place for petty people. So Donald Trump, I know you watch the show. Man,
Dave Chappelle, if nothing, is his setups are off the chart. Would that be a fair statement, Henry? His setups are off the charts. How he sets something up, how he then delivers the quote unquote punchline or the message is just brilliant. So what's the message there? We want to elect the strongest, the best people that we have on all levels. Good men. He said good men and good women. What the country did, that 31.78%, what the country did is they did not choose a good person, a good man. That is, there's no question in my mind. I don't know 34-time convicted felon, but I see his actions, and he is not a good man. And the country failed itself there. It failed itself because it did not elect what it says it's all about. There's no question. You don't have to debate that with yourself or with your family. The country, 31.78% of the country said, I don't care if the person is good or not. That doesn't matter to me. And they lied to themselves about the rest. We have another clip before we go to the break that I want you guys to hear as it relates to where we are and what we have to be willing to do right now in this moment.
You there, second desk, blue jacket. What is your name?
My name is Alexis.
Alexis, please leave my lecture room. I don't want to see you at one of my lectures ever again.
I don't understand.
I am not going to ask a second time. Thank you. Why are there laws? What are laws for? Anyone?
Social order?
To protect the person's personal rights.
Justice? Thank you. Tell me, was I unfair to your classmate just now? Indeed I was. So, why didn't any of you protest? Why didn't you want to prevent this injustice? What you have just learned, you wouldn't have understood in 1,000 hours of lectures unless you lived it. You didn't say anything because you weren't affected yourself. And this attitude speaks against you and against life. You think it doesn't concern you, so it's none of your business. Well, I'm here to say, if you don't help bring about justice, then one day you too may experience injustice, and there will be nobody there to stand before you. Every day an injustice happens in business, sport, or on the tram. Relying on someone else to take care of it is not good enough. I am here to teach you the power of your voice. I want you to learn critical thinking to empower you to stand up for what is right, even if it means going against what everyone else is doing. Let's begin.
So, the power of your voice is the title of that clip, and I'm more than happy to send that to you. We have to make sure our message is out there. I just got a great text from Lois. Thank you. About making sure our message is out there in large quantity, and we can't just rely on the late night comics. It's got to be stronger. It's got to come from us. But what this gentleman says, what this professor says, is spot on. No longer can any of us, and I say this often, and I say it with meaning from the bottom of my being, we do not, especially now, and it's going to be great to talk to DeMario in a few minutes. We do not, guys, have the luxury of not standing up for each other. We just don't. And part of the reason we got here is that we fail to recognize that, I am my brother or sister's keeper. And that's what we have to do. We have to do that. It's going to be tougher for some people than others. And that's the people that it's going to be tougher for than others that we have to look out for, and we have to be willing. And you guys have heard me say this before. Don't mess with those that I care about. It won't turn out well for you. I mean that. And I don't mean that in a violent way. But we have to speak our ideas. Our ideas are better. They just are for the percentages of people that voted either way. Our voices have got to be heard. And it starts with you not sitting in the classroom, figuratively and literally, and letting someone else be taken advantage of in any shape, form, or fashion. It starts with you. You cannot live in a society where you don't have the temerity to stand up for someone else and stand up for what is right. And right now, America, we have to do that. There is no alternative. There is no, halfway, half behind way of doing it. It has to be fully engaged, making sure that we are fighting with the people that we care about. I'm going to leave you with that because we got to go to a break because we have DeMario with us this morning. I'm looking forward to chatting with him about democracy. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Send us your texts and give us your calls. Well, what can I tell you? It's always great to have people who are on the front lines fighting this stuff every day. And with us this morning, we have DeMario Cooper hanging with Mr. Cooper this Monday morning, January 20th, 2025. Hey. Good morning, DeMario. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Richard, man? It's great to hear your voice. Great to be here.
I am doing great, and I agree with you. It's great to hear your voice and great to have you on the show. Gosh, I don't know where to start, so I know where to start, but I'm going to dive deep into the pool. You and Dr. King have something in common, and what I mean by that is, respectfully, and ironically, that we're talking today, grassroots is what Dr. King was all about in many ways in terms of organizing, and you have done the same thing. You're the co-director of the Center for Popular Democracy. Yeah. Tell us about that organization.
Yeah, so, yes, in that sense, for sure, I appreciate though I am humbled by the comparison to Dr. King. Grassroots organizing is the work we do, which means when we say that, what we're talking about is people who are directly impacted by the laws, by the decisions of the elites, build some power, right? Build some power in order to have influence on what those laws actually are and what those policies actually do. So we think about those who are most affected by the policies and by the injustices, being the folks at the center of finding the solutions to the problems and injustices in our society. When you hear someone saying grassroots organizing, and they're talking about organizing, what they're really talking about is leadership development of regular working class people. And those people having more understanding of what's happening in the politics and are brought into rooms to help develop strategy in order to actually win things for themselves and their families. So that's really the basic. When I say win things, I mean that we are changing policies and the material conditions for our families, for people that we care about, and for ourselves.
Well, you've done a great job of really pulling together and organizing people to help in the housing, healthcare, criminal justice, and economic access to better economic opportunities. And that's one of the things that your organization has really leaned into and done a great job in. So tell us a little bit more about those efforts.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I should say about popular democracy is that we're in 35 states in D.C. and Puerto Rico. We have about 50 affiliates in those states. All of those affiliates are on the ground talking to working class people and families. And yes, we work on issues. Those issues that you just listed are issues that our leaders, the people who are in the community, have lifted up and said, these are things that we want to work on, things that we want to change. And oddly, across the country, a lot of these issues are similar, right? Like people are having housing issues across the country. People are having healthcare issues across the country. So a lot of these issues are federal issues that then go to states, and then they become states, county, and city issues. And so our work, our work is really about the leadership development inside of these places and these geographies that are helping people take action. I mean, one thing I should say is the thing that happened last week. Some people may have seen that Biden's been commuting some people's sentences. He 37 people on death row, federal death row, and then he commuted 1,500 people were pardoned a few weeks ago, and now there's 2,500 commutations, and these are directly linked to the fact that Joe Biden was a part of helping create mass incarceration in the late 80s and 90s, the 94 crime bill. These policies have devastating impacts on families, poor Black Americans, brown Americans who've been subject to mass incarceration and these racist sentencing practices and disparities and discriminatory policing. And so, it's been taking decades for regular folks who are directly impacted by the criminal justice system to actually continue to move to try to secure more clemency. And the last 18 months, really, our organization has been working with our local affiliates and leaders at a group called the People's Coalition for Safety and Freedom. That also was helped created and developed and helped sustain by Popular Democracy leaders. And, we really, we came up about 18 months ago and said this time right now would be an opportunity. Hopefully we might have had a different presidential candidate today. But we knew that, we wanted to challenge the president to really secure a legacy of equity and equality by fixing the wrongs that he admitted that he already had committed. So leaders, actual leaders, meaning not some really paid lobbyists, but actual folks who have dealt with criminal justice and policing, the irregularities in sentencing between cocaine and crack, which was 100-to-1 sentencing for, the majority of the last 30 years. And then recently under Obama got changed to 18-to-1. But families have been suffering, right? People have been feeling the impacts of these policies. And, we had those folks are people we took to D.C. Those are the folks who lobbied. Those are folks who stood up and told their stories in order to push the president to now, really, secure clemency for roughly 4,000 people. And that's organizing.
Yeah, and that here's the thing that's I think should be a big takeaway. Two things that should be big takeaways in what you were saying. The Biden administration recognized that policies from 2.5, 3 decades ago, and even further in many ways, were harmful to so many communities, and that he recognized that he was a part of that. One of the most important things I think has to happen as we go forward is that policies that have been detrimental to society at large and micro have got to be dealt with and have got to be changed. And this is one of the reasons that I think so many people are fearful of this incoming administration. You guys have, when I was looking at your work and the things that you've been doing, it is fascinating that you have so many, you've brought together or bring together so many different organizations and so many different parts of the country. And what it says, to your point, is that we've got common problems that are local issues, and that sometimes gets, I think, glazed over, that that's happening over here. Well, it's happening over here or over there, but it's happening in other communities. And when you have a group like Popular Democracy working, you bring out the fact that housing is an issue, whether it be in Philly, D.C., Houston, Huntsville, Alabama. We could go through the red states and the blue states and find that housing is an issue in every part of the country, just as economic disparity is an issue in every part of the country. And that's one of the things I applaud you guys for, and the affiliate work that you have, or the affiliates that you have to do the work. And that can't go without a lot of energy put toward it. So kudos, as I say, to you in that space.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. You know, it's a real thing, and it's democracy, so it's not necessarily easy work. It takes a lot of conversation and negotiation to, like, you know, decide what we're going to do together. And then, you know, local affiliates are doing things that are directly impacted that locality. But what we have created is this collective, you know, this collaborative, this national network of affiliates. They help each other, you know, so we are stronger than the sum of our parts. But I just wanted to speak to a thing real quick. Since it is Martin Luther King Day, I love this because I heard what you said before the commercial break, and I could not agree more around what our role as people who care about other human beings is in this moment. And I love this quote by King where he said, because, you know, we need power. So King says, power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implemented through demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love, which is part of what Joe Biden was trying to do, right? Like correcting this thing that's still against people being together. And another thing that we've been thinking about in our network around us being together is like, what are the things that unite us? What are the things in our democracy that actually protects everyone's rights and guarantees equal protection under the law? What are those things? And what we've identified, honestly, and I think I want to say it here because it needs to be said more, is that, you know, when we look at what's happening on the other side, what's happening in the country, and those who are fighting against justice, right? Like, and fighting against the love, helping block that love, we see that they're actually coming after this, you know, 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And we look at it because if you think about all the issues, and the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees citizenship and equal protection under the law. That is the fundamental thing. And it also says if you are born in the United States, if you are a person who was born in this country, you are a citizen. Right? It allows for equal protection, making sure that laws can't discriminate against people. And I think we need to get really clear about what's happening, because if you look at the Dobbs decision, if you look at the immigration fights, if you look at the things we're seeing right now, the voting rights, talking about getting rid of the education department, which, you know, Brown v. Board stands on the 14th Amendment. If you're talking about marriage equality, that stands on the 14th Amendment. And really, what I want your listeners to know, if we really need to be defending something, you know, some people talk about defending their Second Amendment right, fair, fine, but we actually need to defend our 14th Amendment rights, which is what makes this country a more humane country and actually protects the citizenship and the people, not even citizens only, but the people who are here, you know, against injustices. And so as we go into this day, which is a historic day to represent a man who talked about this country not fulfilling the promise of equality, but of this country having a check that it hasn't cashed. Basically, if you look at the I Have a Dream speech, King is talking about an uncashed check, the uncashed commitment to Black people in this country.
Yep.
This is the 14th Amendment. Sorry.
No. Hey, listen, I stopped taking notes, started to listen. As I said, like I told you, I know you want to push back, and respectfully, I get that. But grassroots folks who talk to everyday people like you do with the work that you and your affiliates and your board does throughout the country are the ones that are going to be part of the success in turning things in a different direction. And so when someone's speaking about these things, you know, Mama and Daddy come back and say, it's time to listen, Richard. So I heard what you were saying. Listen, man, we've got in the 7:30 hour, I'm going to talk about something that a lot of people don't look at as a common issue. And it's something, to your point, about all issues that are local affect people on a national level, and that's the climate. And, we have Ben Jealous on with us at 7:30, who, his background. I don't need to repeat that to you, but right now he's the head of the Sierra Club. And he is a huge climate advocate and talking about if we don't take care of that, all the other things that we are trying to do and trying to lean into aren't going to really matter that much. And one of the nexus between what he does and what you're doing is how climate or the disparity in climate care impacts Black, brown, and low-income communities the first and the hardest. Is that?
Yes.
I mean, am I out there in left field, or am I?
No, you're not in left field. You're in center field. Like, this is part of the history and legacy of inequality. Even when you look at the way cities are designed, normally the poor neighborhoods are downhill at the factories, right? Like,
literally,
really think about
literally
it,
downhill.
right? Literally downhill. I mean, this is a historic problem when we think about, because, you know, the climate crisis is about some sector of humanity feeling like what they do. I mean, a lot of people feel this way. A lot of us feel this way, right? Like, what you do doesn't impact the person next to you, right? Or doesn't, like you said, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. But what we're seeing is, like, if there's a fire, if there are fires, which there are, and I just want to, you know, for all the families who lost their things, like, you think about the enormous loss of folks in California. But when you think about the fact that you've underfunded your public services, for what reason, or that wealthy people have a separate
water
fire
system
department for them. So, water. Yeah, it's like, this is ridiculous when you think about, we're all human, right? Like, and because of the legacy, I mean, honestly, the legacy of slavery in this country has allowed it to develop in a way where we can actually implicitly in some ways believe that some human beings, we can share organs, we can share blood, but some human beings are not quite human, right? And that legacy is allowing a lot of different things to happen in our society. And when you think about the climate, and this is global climate, right? Like, we're looking at immigration, people are they're like, oh my God, we have a border crisis. Well, the border crisis is driven by climate issues, and climate issues are driven by industrialization and, you know, like the way that we're adding to global warming. So when we think about, especially Black and brown people who suffer the most under climate impacts, disasters, we have to believe that until we're able and really willing to help all communities thrive, like really thrive, not in this, like, you can thrive as long as I still can exploit you thrive, right? Like, if we really get into human thriving, then we can try to mitigate some of these crises. And if not, then we at least can be able to provide shelter and accept people into spaces that are habitable in the future. And so, you know, it's definitely another thing where it comes back to, you know, I believe that in the civil rights movement, Dr. King and his allies and people who Rowan and Barrett Rush and Ella Baker, all the folks, all the young people, they were actually searching for a new type of human being. You know, a new type of person, a new society that was invested in each other and loved each other. And this is the power of love. This is what he's talking about. This is what they are talking about. If you read the books, if you read their manuscripts, they're talking about people being different. And in that way that we might have abundance if we can, like, you know, choose to work together against a very small group of folks who think that our entire lives are food. You know, and it requires organizing for us to build that power.
No, listen. The thing that I have to say in relationship to, just going back to housing for a minute, and the clip that you heard me play before we brought you on about standing up for the others, someone other than just yourself, and being willing to fight with and for the people that you don't even know, but you know that they can't be. If they're harmed, then you're harmed. And we can go on and on with the platitudes and all that, but at the end of the day, it's about folks leaning into the problem. I look at housing for an example, and I know with the short amount of time that we have today, it tells me that we have to have you back with some frequency, because you were sleeves rolled up, elbows deep in this process, and I truly applaud what you're doing. But, you know, when I think about housing, for example, in any metropolitan area or any area in the country, we have structures that are capable, with some work from the municipalities all over the country, to fix those structures, to house people, and we can walk and chew gum, so we can do all of our other nice things, all of our other big things that are fancy. And we can fix some of the I'm sometimes, Mario, I'm just too damn literal of a person. And I'll give an example. My wife and I were watching a TV show that was familiar. It's Chicago PD. and they went into as part of the show. And this is why you guys just pay attention to this. They went into a building, a house, and my wife said, "Oh, that's definitely one of an old Chicago home." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And here's where my brain went tomorrow. I turned and looked at her, and she just looked at me and smiled with the wry smile. I said, "We don't have a housing problem. This is an old building that they use for the shooting of this TV show, which I'm a fan of. It's filmed there in Chicago. Why would I not be?" But my brain went down the path of, when it comes to housing, we got empty buildings. We have empty structures that we just put some. Anyhow, I get this way sometimes because I look at that and I go, this is kind of, I'm not putting myself in any of the sentences with Dr. King, but he talked about this 50 years ago. Yeah. And we're still fighting this same doggone fight. So I know.
Yeah. No, it is crazy, you know, housing is a human right. Like, everyone deserves to have a house. Like, how can you believe in any kind of God or higher power and not just rounding no one should freeze to death outside when we have empty houses across the country that were created from foreclosure crisis, from speculative lending,
and companies going in and quote unquote, I don't want to use the word disrespectfully, but raping the community, raping the resources, and moving on to the next. And
that's what they're doing. You know, our groups like ACE out in California, we have groups in New York Community for Change, the Ohio Organized and Collaborative Detroit Action. There are groups that are out here fighting for housing, fighting for people to have housing, right? Like, our organization raised the issue of housing during this last presidential election. Of course, we didn't win, but, slumlord, well, let me be quiet, but...
DeMario, your mother and father and my mother and father didn't know each other, but they knew each other.
They knew each other. I believe it.
No, listen, man. I know where you were going with that. We've got, it's the truth. But here, this is the opportunity, and stay with me as we wrap up. The popular democracy's 6 guiding principles. I want you guys to hear this. Are designed to light the path to achieving governing power, cultivating future leaders through recruitment, training, and development, build a strong network, harnessing culture for collective power, advancing knowledge for strategic impact, building narrative power for impactful change, and build a strong and resilient popular democracy network. Those may be, guys, listeners, those may be the principles, the 6 principles of popular democracy, but they also can be ones for each of us. And they also can be ways in which we organize and we communicate and connect with each other to be stronger, to affect the change that we know has to happen on all levels. So, DeMario, in the last minute, I want to give you the last couple of words. Tell folks how they can find you. I know there's ways that folks can get involved and invest in the movement, but hit us with that real quickly before we wrap up.
Yep, we're at popdemoc.org. And depending on where you are, if you're in Chicago, there's probably a local affiliate. You can come to our website, populardemocracy.org, and find one of the local affiliates and folks who are doing work. And we also invite people, if you go in there and you put your name and you sign up, you'll get invited to our monthly bonfires where we bring together folks across the country, talk about strategy, politics, and what we can do locally to help, create better environments and fight for humanity and for a popular democracy.
That's exciting. It's been great hanging with Mr. Cooper this morning as we chop it up around the conversation of democracy and how, as co-executive director, he's been able to do what he does, and that's be a grassroots organizer and bring more people into the fold. DeMario, I hope you will be willing to come back with us in the future and talk about this again, because it's only going to go away if we lean into it and make it go away. Fair statement?
Absolutely. You should let me bring some of my friends next time. Anna Lilly, my co-ED, is brilliant. Plus, we have leaders, EDs across the country. It'd be great.
We'll do it.
We have a whole party, man.
Well, absolutely, we'll do it. All right, man. Listen, it's great to talk with you. It's great to get to know you, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again in the future. Have a great King Day.
Right.
Have a great week.
You too.
And we appreciate all the hard work that you're doing.
You too. Thank you very much.
Be well. Talk to you soon. Wow. That sleeves rolled up, elbows deep. He's right in it. And listen, I like what he said. You know, he called out President Biden's past, and from a legislative standpoint. But he also said, but he's working. He did what he needed to do, or tried to do as best he could to correct that from a policy standpoint. That's what leaders do. Leaders go, "Ooh, I messed that up. I got to fix that. Clean up on aisle 7. I need to fix that right now." And to the best of his ability, you know, President Biden has tried to do that. Now, granted. These are fixes that could have started years ago, but that's another conversation. I appreciate what DeMario Cooper had to say, and you guys should make a point of finding out more and getting involved with their organization, populardemocracy.org. You asked me, Richard, give me some specifics of what I can do, where I can go, how I can get involved. Well, there is one. I've had a couple people say to me, Richard, I hear you talk about getting involved and fighting and working together and elbows and arms locked together, but that's not enough. Okay, here's one right here. He told you can sign up on their list. Here's one right here. They're doing the stuff. There's I'm thankful to we have this great team here at WCPT that we put together when we put together our shows. None of us as hosts do it by ourselves. So today, one of my objectives was to make sure that we're speaking to these common issues that are local, but they're national. And this is an organization that's leaning into this unapologetically. So for those who follow this show, that follow any of our shows that are on CPT, whether it be Choose Views, whether it be Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, certainly Joan Esposito and Patty, Edwin, all the rest of our shows, and this is a group that's doing that work that we talk about. This is specific. This is a group that you can link yourself to and say, I want to be a part of what they're doing, because I know that they're getting stuff done. They're in 34 states, y'all, and DC. We have 50 affiliates throughout the country. You can find a way to get involved. And if you want more information on them, send me an email. I'll send you the links and all the things that I have on them, and make to help and assist you in getting involved with an organization like this. So, all right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
My man Henry, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. My man Henry and I chop it up about certain things that we could not say on the air. Not expect to be around here much longer, but we have some fun during the breaks, y'all. We do, as I do with Devin. Listen, what a great opportunity to speak with Mr. Cooper. What an informed man who's on point, and sleeves rolled up, elbows deep in this fight. And he recognizes the importance of the local issues, whether it be the water table, whether it be a housing issue, whether it be access to voting, whether it be access to lending, all those things that might be local are regional and national issues. And he even said in international concerns as he was talking about the planet. So he's going to be one of my new folks to turn to for information. Because as I said before we went to that interview and earlier in the show, 31.78% of people voted for the carnage that's coming. They decided to take the razor blade, pull it out of its little packet, and go to work. That's what they voted for. 30.8% voted for something other than that. 1.06% lost their damn minds. But 36.33% did not vote. And that's unacceptable, America. That's flat out unacceptable. I get it in many ways that a lot of people feel like because of the housing issue and being left out and all the things that we can use as the bullet points to denote this, maybe the reasons that some people stayed out of the fight. But some people were just damn lazy. Some people just said, and those are the people that I got an issue with in that space. Those are the people who did not recognize that things weren't going to get better by not getting involved. They would stay neutral or get worse. That's just the reality of humankind. And these percentages are going to be part of my conversation now, a year from now, 2 years from now, in terms of how the Democratic Party can fix this. And it starts with knowing what the numbers are in terms of who did not vote, as much as it is who voted for whom. All right, let's go to a couple quick calls. Let's go to Deborah. Good morning, Deborah. Welcome to the show.
I'm praying for the God of miracles. Much is going on all across the world. A blessed new year to you.
You too.
And him and listeners with the release of prisoners and all. It's so much, but I have, for most of President Biden's administration, I've been calling this volunteer line, I've written, and many of the things I was forewarning. I even begged of his people to let him to get Tom Hardman to do the messaging. Many things that Tom Hardman had said, I would call in and give things. These people knew my voice. That I was constantly, I'd hang up and call back. But most importantly, as your previous guest, politics is local. I'm 66, and all of my life I have looked for better. I came to know, and it's ironic that it's almost 50 years as a young girl that, and I'll have to revisit, but where do we go from here, Dr. King? I read that. I'm okay, you're okay, but and others. I guess it stayed in my spirit more so. But to know that we have not advanced a whole lot here in the city. If you do parallelism, what's happening across this country, as in Chicago is the harbinger. At one time it was. When Dr. King came here to help for the quality of life for Black people. Yeah. And we're still not. So it hurts me. It hurts me in my spirit. And even Dr. King, that what he was trying to do, you have people, and you use the word galvanize. I called someone who was a representative here in the city, who I asked, why didn't you continue to organize and galvanize? This is almost 10 years ago. So when you speak of people not voting, who did any galvanizing and organizing people right here in the city? And that's the destruction of our democracy, because you don't want to educate the people. You had the Shaw brothers who wanted history in the classes for our Black students. How will they know who they are if they have no one to teach them and it's not being said? I'm going to say this, and I don't want to eat up a whole lot of your time, but one who's back on the stage, you speak about housing. Emmanuel set on $750 million. So that as a blue dog, look what he did to the city, Laquan McDonald's and others. So before Trump, we had those who were destroying our democracy and our way of life right here. And so what you've done to these, you have done to God and have done to the rest of this country. Who is that? In the color purple, Seeley, what you doing to me, already done to you. That's what has been done. So how do we undo Trump? Well, maybe because the Democrats won't. It's a lie. We're talking about Dr. King won't even open up the Coretta Scott King wanted to know who killed her husband, who was involved, and we won't even do that. And we're talking about Dr. King. The hypocrisy. Richard, thank you for accepting my call.
You're welcome, Deborah. Thanks for the call. Have a good day.
God bless you.
So many people, guys, are, Deborah's frustration is palpable. That, how do I want to put this without offending too many people? We haven't done a damn thing, if not even close to enough. And that's true. There's a lot of truth in that. As a little boy, I remember Dr. King's work. I remember when he was assassinated. And we still having this conversation today. DeMario that's what we talked about. Still having the same damn conversation. And it's disgusting in many ways that America won't learn the lessons and really truly move forward. And the drippings of what do we want to call it? Trickle down economics. Ronald Reagan did not work. Stop loving Ronald Reagan. I mean, I'm going to talk about my lifetime, and that was Reagan was elected in my early years, and particularly in voting. But Ronald Reagan, for so many people, he was the Republican icon of wonderfulness. But you got to remember, as we talk about a thing that someone did, we talked about Biden earlier and the crime bill and all that, and we know the destruction that caused. There's no getting away from that. And he tried to reset that and make it better. We recognize that. But it was still awful legislation. Now let's talk about some of the things that, historically Republicans have done. There is a study that was out there that I got my hands on, and I got to do a little bit more deeper dive. But there's only been one Democratic president that came into office since FDR that didn't fix or make the economy better than the previous Republican president. Y'all realize that? They fix stuff. Democratic leadership has typically fixed stuff on a national level. And I look at Reagan and I think, gosh, how do people hold him up with such regard? Because, even his family has come out and said, his awfulness. But as it relates to senior citizens that haven't recognized that voting for Republicans is the kiss of death, y'all got to remember this. Ronald Reagan made it so that seniors are now paying more in income taxes than billionaires, so that billionaires can pay less. That's really started in mass with Ronald Reagan, because in 1984, he lowered the top income rate from 70% to 28%, and then imposed income tax on Social Security benefits to make up for that disparity in revenue from the reduction in top income tax rate. That's a fact, y'all. That's not anecdotal. That's not me being PO'd at the Republicans. That's what happened. So stop giving Ronald Reagan, and I'm not saying that Democrats do this, but the country, stop kissing Reagan's boots. Because Reagan was destructive to one of the systems that have allowed America to maintain itself when it comes to seniors and protective services, i.e. Social Security, and those who are disabled and need to have access to those benefits. That's Ronald Reagan. And the list goes on. The list goes on. And then we had Bush 1, and then after that we had Bill Clinton, who got some stuff fixed and made things better for a lot of people. And then the song that was played during his inaugural ball, which wasn't from a rapper that decided to lose his damn mind, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. That's what Bill Clinton, danced to, as I recall. So I'm merging all this together for a reason. We got to stop kissing the boots of the Republicans who get us into trouble, because they keep getting us into trouble. They keep getting us into trouble. They keep getting us into trouble, particularly when it comes to financial, social, economic, and everyday services to make America truly more great than it already is. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Number 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. This conversation around the TikTok ban, just FYI to all the young people who think Joe Biden is to blame for TikTok, you need to do some research and you need to do some review about how many times Donald Trump ran his mouth about TikTok and what he signed as it relates to TikTok. I want y'all to, to do that work as well. and look at what happened in that space. You might realize that, once again, don't get played, guys. Don't let the okie doke run on you. Don't let that happen. My good friend, colleague, and cousin Eric Grant from the family meeting talks about that all the time. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't fall for the okie doke. And that's something that I think you guys have to be mindful of every single day. All right, let's do this. We're tight on time today, so we got to keep things moving along. Let's grab a quick call from Rick in Florida. Hey, Rick. Good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, Richard. Good morning. Good morning, Chicago. Two things. First off, as far as Ronald Reagan goes, everybody remember his daughter was in Playboy magazine, and she gave an interview saying that she had herself sterilized because she didn't want to pass on her parents' genes. That's what kind of man Ronald Reagan is, first of all. I used to have that copy, and I just threw it away. I got sick of looking at it and reading that article. And the second thing is this. And hopefully this is a little bit of hope for everybody out there. Think of voting Republican like smoking a cigarette. Why would anybody pick up such a disgusting, dirty habit? And it's product placement and it's advertisement. So don't lose hope on this country, because what we're facing is advertisement, product placement, and we have a bunch of gullible people that are falling for it. We are not crazy. We will win this. I've noticed that Republicans, even though they've won this election, thanks to the Electoral College, that they seem just as desperate as before, and if anything, more mad. They know that I think that they know, in my opinion, that they've done a bad thing, and we just gotta stick together. Richard, I think you're on the right track with, giving people options in Chicago. I wish I was back there. I'm healing up myself. I'm going to go get a pair of marching shoes, and Florida man Rick, formerly from Chicago, is going to be out there and joining the fight very soon.
Awesome, Rick. Glad to hear your voice, man, and stay strong. You know where to find us. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right, man.
Richard,
thanks for calling.
Thank you for what you're doing. Bye-bye. Appreciate
you. All right. Let's see. Time, that being that it is, I want you guys to hear these two clips, because then we're gonna get ready for a Ben Jealous this morning. Henry, let's hit him with the clip on the American economy.
Why do the American people continue to say that the economy is weak and that the economy is underperforming and they're blaming Joe Biden for it? Well, the fact is, we've been fed a heaping, helping spoonful of lies month after month, day after day, suggesting the economy's in the toilet. I believe that was an exact Trump quote, and that Joe Biden's to blame. Before the election, the economic confidence number was a negative 26, which helped drag down Vice President Harris's campaign. Americans are being fed a bunch of lies. They're not looking at the facts. They're listening to everything they see on social media, everything they hear on television, and everything Donald Trump's saying, and they internalize it, and they trust it. Well, the fact is, Joe Biden is leaving us with the strongest economy in the history of the world and the strongest economy in the history of the United States. Those are the facts, not the fiction spun by Donald J. Trump. Look beyond the propaganda, my friends.
He's right on. Dig deeper. I fully understand that. And that's, the Republican voters, that 31%, whatever they say their rationale was, to his point, they're about to find out. So before we take break, I want to when I talked earlier about fighting back and talked earlier about not taking it, this is the kind of energy that we need as we go forward. One of our Canadian leaders had something to say to Donald Trump.
You're a disgrace as a human being. I'm sorry, you may have gotten the presidency, but you're a disgrace. You're a convicted felon. You're a pervert. You treat your allies with absolute disdain while you kiss up to Putin. Here's the thing. We are your best neighbor. We are your best ally. We are your number one trading partner, but we won't break, Donald, because you think your grifter politics can push us around. And we will continue to defend the international world order. We will continue to work with NATO. We will continue to work with Ukraine. So, Donald, I know this is a big diversion exercise for you to change the channels in the United States, but you're going to have to explain to the American people very quickly why you brought in so many grifters and crooks with you. The American people aren't going to put up with it, and the Canadian people, we will never put up with it. Anytime, Donald, anywhere, we will take you on.
That's taking the fight to them. That's standing up. That's what. Listen, guys, I try to bring you clips that I think will have impact on in saying things that you may want to say but don't say, or maybe not have a venue to say it. This is why I talk about the importance of sharing information with people in your network and in your communities. There are people out there that are saying the things that you may want to say. This gentleman, this Canadian, there's a couple of Canadian leaders that I've played clips from before. Start to say it. Listen, I mean, during the break, Henry and I talked about, there's a lot of people who are looking for avenues, and that's why I'm so thankful we were able to have DeMario on earlier. That's an avenue. That's an avenue to get involved and be able to fight and have people to work with you to fight in this effort. That's what it's going to take. And listen, I respectfully understand that it's going to be tough. I do. I'm not blind to that. I've girded myself in many ways, quietly and here publicly. And rather than but, we have to make certain that we are pulling our shoulders back. This is not just to be figurative, and saying, okay, we're ready. And if you see something that ain't right, you got to say something, like the clip from before, from the professor. You can't just let folks be taken advantage of anymore. That's unacceptable. It's always been unacceptable, but right now more than ever before. Henry, let's take one last call. Let's go to Dave in San Francisco. Dave, good morning and welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard, you had a lot of good calls today. And as a matter of fact, as you were talking about the economy, right away after the election, the stock market started falling and falling fast. And then now the bonds, which used to be the stability, if there were Republicans elected during Reagan, if there were Republicans elected during the Bushes, you could always invest your money in bonds, school bonds, sewer bonds, things like that. But now the Supreme Court says that the stability of America's infrastructure can be looted, and the Republicans pretend that infrastructure is a bad thing. Investing in our own property is a bad thing. So now even the bond market is falling apart. So if you look at global warming as a precedent that we have to fix the climate without any aid, without any money of our own. We can't pool our money together on April 15th to fix our own property and to clean up the pollution that these old boys are doing. We have to do it without money. That's the precedent. And during Reagan, during Bush's, during the corrupt years, we always had to put together, growing sprouts or baking brownies for our neighbors or whatever, doing little side hustles like that. Now we're going to have to clean up the planet on that same scale. So personally, I've been pushing this idea of just boycotting their kind of money, and it goes all the way back to when Washington was freezing at Valley Forge. The British had counterfeited the continental dollars, and so Ben Franklin and the boys got together new printing presses, and they came up with new designs of money to just change out the money in front of the old boys. And so that we're going to have to do that and clean up the planet at the same time.
Yeah, but to your point, though, David, and thank you for the call and as always, your contribution. It's going to take the collective effort, and it starts with individually saying, all right, I can no longer say that those folks are going to be the ones that fix this. I have to be one of the ones that's part of the fix. So I hear you loud and clear in that space. Thanks, Dave, for the contribution this morning. Listen, guys, after the break, when we come back, we're hoping to have Ben Jealous with us, who is the executive director of the Sierra Club. So this is going to be a great opportunity to talk with someone who is leaning into the thing that is most common for all of us, and that's the planet that we live on, that we reside on. And the biggest gift that we've been given, frankly, other than coming to life, is a planet to live on. And so Ben's going to talk about that and a few other items that I'm sure on his list of important things. When I was saying earlier about Republicans versus Democrats in terms of leaving the office and what they either leave the office with or come into the office and have to fix, and that's one of those areas is unemployment. Whether it be Truman, whether it be Kennedy, whether it be Johnson, whether it be Clinton, whether it be Obama, whether it be Biden. Unemployment numbers when they leave the office have went down during their administration. Conversely, or the other side of that is that they have, in many ways, had to come in. Now, with Truman, it was a little bit different because of FDR's work. But they've got every one of those other Democratic presidents. They left better than when they came in as it relates to unemployment. And they left better economies for the incoming Republican president. And what did those Republican presidents handily do each time? They mucked it up. They did, guys. That's not anecdotal. That's the data. And that's, unfortunately where we are about to be now, is this knucklehead is coming into office on the heels of the best economy that we've experienced in most of our lifetimes. Of course, the mainstream media didn't want to talk about that because it's not in their interest to have. It's really not in their interest to have a good economy because they know that nobody listens to their shows and their programming when things are going well. They like carnage because that sells. If it bleeds, it reads, or leads, or whatever the phrase used to be. If it yells, it sells. So, unfortunately, 31% of America said, I want that over there. I don't want it to be calm. I say I want it to be calm, but actually I'm so broken inside. I want it to be ugly and nasty. But we get to fix that, guys. That's our charge right now. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Yeah, I appreciate the text that you guys are sending me this morning. I touched a nerve, Henry, in talking about Reagan. The folks that have been around long enough understand that may have been fully grown in their 20s or 30s during Reagan's terms, fully recognize. And former President Obama said this, and people mistook it, and you've heard me talk about this before, that Ronald Reagan was really, in his lifetime, the president that, changed the arc of the country in significant ways when it comes to the economy and when it comes to religion. And he did that in a way that was, using his, quote, acting skills, his telegenesis, if you will, to become the person that was viewed as believable and viewed as, saving the country, when in fact a lot of the things that the Reagan administration did were tipping points for a lot of things where we are today. Depleting education in California. And I remember this because I was in school there. Raising the tuition in state universities, as I was reminded, and the list goes on. that became then part of how we looked at some of our federal education funding, our federal assistance to education and funding. So, Reagan is on this day of inauguration. It's appropriate to talk about how he, as former President Obama did say, he and his policies changed the arc for so many things in the country, probably more than people sometimes realize. And that's why I wanted to go back to talk about how Reagan negatively impacted Social Security by changing the tax code that now has created this pathway. As much as Clinton gets blamed for the communications bill and other parts of that conversation, he, meaning Reagan, had a lot to do with where we are, more than people want to stop and take note of. So just to remind you of that. Over the weekend, you guys heard all kinds of different commentary about certain, musical performers performing, and as some of these inauguration parties and whatnot. And of course, the noted names are Snoop Dogg and Nelly and Carrie Underwood, I believe it is. I think that's right. So listen, this is the thing. They're entitled to do whatever they darn well please to do with their talent and get paid for it handsomely. They really are. That's the thing. I have, my sarcasm about it. But at the end of the day, they're allowed to do what they want to do with their talent and their monies and their access. That's their call. This is the way I look at it. You can be upset about that. And it's kind of like how I look at the TikTok thing. There too many people were upset about TikTok, but not enough people were concerned about other policies like, forgiving college loan a debt. Yelling and screaming about, TikTok's going away and it's Biden's fault or it's Trump's, did y'all vote? Did you vote? If you didn't vote, then, STF, you know what I'm going to say. If you didn't vote, then you ain't got a leg to stand on when it comes to the TikTok. And if you weren't yelling and screaming about policies and issues along the way, then, don't be an opportunist. Just don't. Regarding this, again, doing what people want to do and focusing your energies, listen, those performers are going to do what they're going to do. I'm not happy with the fact that, a few years ago, Snoop Dogg said that any black person that performs, for Trump is, some derogatory words and some culturally derogatory words. I guess he decided that, he was shielded from that. That's his business. Carrie Underwood, same thing. But, and whoever else, that's their business to do that. They just have to accept the results of it. And what I can tell you is my methodology is I just don't give them any time. If Snoop's on for something, then, I have the right to not listen to what he has to say and, not buy any of his merchandise. That's my way of dealing with that. Is he a bad person for performing? No, but he associated himself with people who want to cause harm to people that I care about. And the same thing is true, Carrie Underwood. Am I a fan of hers? Whether I was or not, on the fence. She's a good singer, but I don't need to frustrate myself behind her performing. I just need to make a decision to do things differently as I go forward. And that same thing would be true with anybody else that Sylvester Stallone spoke at Mar-a-Lago after the election. I've been back and forth with Sylvester Stallone. But, now that he's shown his colors in that regard, I won't be watching Tulsa King. Because I don't need to put myself in a situation where I'm being hypocritical about what I say and think and then what I actually do. Okay? I won't do that. I refuse to do that. There's so many other people to listen to, so many other people to watch, and people to follow. You align yourself with the people who are going to be in alignment with you, that you're not going to worry. For the most part, they're not going to stab you in the back. And when they raise the hand, then you got to step away. And so that's what they did. They just gave us clarification. They gave us, they had their Maya Angelou moment. They show you who they are, believe them. And if it's situational and all that, then you still have to look at where they were in that situation. And so, and I heard, that Nellie's basically in denial about, white supremacy. Okay, Nellie, drive through Alabama at 75 miles an hour in a 65 and get pulled over, and we'll see about how you survive that. Or drive through certain areas. I won't even say Alabama. Drive through certain areas of the country. It's just kind of how I see it. So there you go. Let's grab a quick call. Let's go to Marquita. Good morning, Marquita. Welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. This is the first time that I'm calling your program.
Okay, welcome.
Your radio station. I just happened to come across you. I listen to several radio stations because, as you say, we do have to do our homework. And I think we as average citizens, for the most part, we've gotten lazy. Mm-hmm. So sometimes things happen because, too, it's calling those of us that know better that we need to get up and do what we need to do to make things happen. So I am so grateful that you see. This is why, and people need to wake up and wise up. Why do you think they're so, especially the Republican Party, is so adamant to keep the average citizen dummied down, and they're starting with hitting our education system? Mm-hmm. They see the progress that we've made over the years. Now they're trying to slow it down and turn it around and totally dismantle it. And our people better wake up. We got to fight. This is a different type of war, and we are in war. Why does this kept? I prefer this type of war than the wars that we've known in the previous years. In our history.
Right. The bloodshed wars. Yeah. No. Marquita, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going, dear. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to commend you. Keep up the great work. I'm going to be out there doing my part as well. We all are soldiers. Those of us that know better, we got to keep pushing through because it will get better. Where there's darkness, light comes.
That's right.
And we just have to push through until we see that light. Thank you so much, and keep up the great work.
And Marquita, thank you for calling and your contribution. And I'll leave you with this. You got a place to call. You got a place to be, to stay motivated about the fight that we're in. We'll be here for you, okay?
And I need to get that clip that you hit with that professor. Okay. How can I obtain that?
Email me. My email address is Richard. I'll tell you what.
I wasn't ready.
No, don't worry. Here's what we'll do. Henry will get the information to you. He's going to put you on hold, and then he'll give you the email address so you don't have to rush to write it down. And then email me, and then I will send you that clip. Is that okay?
Excellent. Yes, that's a deal.
All right, hold on.
You be safe.
You too. Hold on 1 second. All right, I'll let you get that from her. Yeah, I mean, we want to be a source of information as best we can. So, we do our best in that space. But it's a fight, and we've got to be ready for it. I think many of us are, and hopefully we are positioning ourselves to not only to be ready for the fight itself, whether with our language, with our ideas, with our commentary, but also finding connections with people who need to be prepared and need help in the fight. So that's what I want you guys to really lean into, is to know that the fight is not one you have to fight on your own. It's an opportunity to be with people who, like my man DeMario had to say earlier, it gives you the opportunity to partner. And what a great organization to be a part of. So, don't worry, Marquita and many others. We got you. We're going to be here as best we can, leading this charge and making sure that the folks like you are plugged in to the opportunity to do what we do. So I feel confident that there are going to be more and more of the Marquitas of the world that are going to step into the void and step in and be ready to do the thing. that's exciting for me. So, good stuff, guys. Really, really good stuff. What I can tell you is, with regard to our guests, is we're trying to coordinate a couple things, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be hearing shortly from Ben. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. I know that he's got a busy morning with regard to giving this keynote speech at the MLK breakfast here in Chicago. So we'll keep our fingers crossed in that. Something else that Marquita said that was kind of just a reminder is that a lot of times we forget, or we think it's not so much. She didn't say forget, but we think that somebody else is going to do the work, when in fact we're the ones right in. Like I said, look in the mirror. You're the one that can do the work, and that's why we have. We want to provide you with the connections and the access to all the resources that we can, because we want to be able to help you in doing that work. And sometimes it means that to get you off the sidelines and get in the fight. So, all right, guys, we are not going to take a break. We are going to go right to our caller, our guest. The opportunity to have folks with us this morning has been great on this King holiday, and we're fortunate to have one of our national leaders, Benjamin Todd Jealous, from the Sierra Club and many other great stops along this great career. Good morning, Ben, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be with you.
Glad to be with you as well. I know you've got a busy morning, and I know that you're going to be giving the keynote speech for the MLK breakfast this morning here in Chicago. Are you ready? Are you prepared?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I started, working with Reverend Jackson when I was 14 years old. I'm now 52, so I've had a long time to prepare for this.
Good. Well, yeah, you've had a long time, and you've had a great career of preparing and providing folks with information like this. I was so pleased that we got to meet during the DNC and to do an interview with you then. And a lot of folks don't know, so much about your background as much as I do, having served as president and chief executive officer of the NAACP. From 2008 to 2013, and you were one of the folks that helped in the early Obama years to make a way and provide access to what he was able to do and his capabilities as a national leader. And you were one of the were you the youngest ever national leader of the NAACP? Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's right. And I was also with Obama early, and for Julian Bond, that was a big deal when they were selecting the president of the NAACP that year. I'd been with Obama since Springfield and had built a PAC outside the campaign to help him win the early primary state. Some say it was the first PAC in a presidential primary, but we played a key role on Super Tuesday in various states down south and throughout the Midwest, making sure folks got to know Senator Obama outside of this great state.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a gentleman on earlier. His name is DeMario Cooper, and he's with an organization called the Center for Popular Democracy. One of the things that I leaned into with him as a grassroots guy, and you to some extent you've captured the importance of grassroots with your work as the executive director of the Sierra Club. But we talked about the environment. And we talked about that as a issue that impacts every single community in America. So, if you could, just take a moment. I know you've got a tight schedule to talk about the importance of the Sierra Club, your mission, and why it's important to the country.
Yes, well, I've gone from running the largest civil rights group in the country to running the largest green group in the country. And the reality is that the work is very intertwined. And when I was at the NAACP, the first major thing we did was we launched the climate justice program, because the young people in the NAACP in 2008, that was their number one issue, this existential fear that Earth may not remain hospitable to supporting humanity, because humanity has pushed so much carbon, so much pollution, so much exhaust, if you will, into the atmosphere, and it's warming up. The climate's becoming more volatile. and it's just a tougher and tougher place to predict that humanity can survive forever. And so our work at the Sierra Club is really centered on what it takes to cool the earth back down and get into a stable climate where we all can thrive. Part of that is just doubling the size of our parklands. If we do that, if we 2x the parks of this country, and I mean every park, we will preserve enough land to consume enough carbon to really keep up with our share of what the world needs to do right now. But the other part of it, in some ways, I think, Chief, this is the most exciting, is there's a bunch of new technologies that have to be deployed. The biggest economic opportunity on planet Earth right now is planet Earth itself. It's the need to change the way everything is powered and everything is transported. And the reality is that whatever country leads that process will lead the world economy this century. The only real two candidates are the United States and the Chinese government. And the reality is that we need those jobs here. And as you cross this country, one of the things that excites me the most is that for the first time in my adult lifetime, I turned 21 the same year that NAFTA went into effect. And since NAFTA went into effect in 1994, we've shut down 65,000 factories in the United States. It's enough for every town, every city, and then some in this country. 65,000 factories shut down. And so right now we're doing something I've never seen done before, which is our country is opening huge new factories to pursue huge new opportunities. If you go to, throughout the Rust Belt, we're seeing EVs roll off of unionized production lines. States across the country, we're seeing chip manufacturing being onshored. I was just got back from Syracuse, where they're making way for a chip factory that will employ 5,000 workers on the factory floor day one and eventually rise to about 10,000. And that you can quadruple that number for the impact in the local economy. And I was even down in Dalton, Georgia, and that's the home of Marjorie Taylor Greene, perhaps the most divisive character in the U.S. Congress. This is a place that had the highest unemployment during COVID, 47%, and it has typically had one industry, and that is carpet manufacturing. It's a pretty rough industry to work in. And now they have two in Dalton. The other is what will soon be the largest solar panel production facility in the Western Hemisphere. And the interesting thing you see when you're on these factory floors, not surprising, is that despite divisions of race or politics, et cetera, everybody gets along well because everybody's boat is rising. And fundamentally, that's what we need to be focused on, is you cannot explain the divisiveness in American politics right now without acknowledging that we've shut down 65,000 factories, any more than you can explain Brexit in England without acknowledging that they had just deindustrialized the country. And so if we want to really heal this country and extend the work of Reverend Jackson and revive the work of Dr. King, we've got to get America back to work, and that means that we must lead this green economy for the world.
Green economy is interesting. Couple different sides. Not couple different sides. There's a side that says that climate change is kabuki conversation and that we don't have things that are going to accelerate the fires or landfall like we did in the Southeast, and then the fires, of course, in Southern California. And there are people that are denying that and then blaming it on something else, and I'll leave something else open. But the other side, as we wrap up, Ben, is that a lot of people, and this is why I can't wait to have more time to have a conversation with you about this, and maybe we'll do a pre-record for an hour and we can just, do our thing. But I think what a lot of people want to really hear from someone like you is this. Ben, what can I, little Johnny, little Jane, in my little community or my big community, what can I do on a day-to-day basis? Ben, give me some tools so I can be part of this and not feel like that's for somebody else to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, I'll give you a few things. One, with young people, you can get them looking seriously at the trades. We have a shortage of plumbers. We have a shortage of electricians. We have a shortage of welders, and those are all big jobs that AI won't replace, that pay real money, and we need them in order to revive manufacturing in the U.S. and produce the products for this green economy. That's one. two, you can just replace something in your own life. And there are plenty of tax credits still available because, for consumers because of the Inflation Reduction Act. You can go to SierraClub.org. You can go to Rewiring America. I think it's .com. Either one of them will tell you how to, get those, make use of that. But if you just simply replace your gas leaf blower with an electric leaf blower, you'll be doing something for the environment. And then the last thing, I would say is you can really push your city to do the same. The IRA has money, for example, for converting school buses from diesel or gas to electric. And those buses are made here. It puts people back to work. But the other reality is that in addition to keeping carbon from going into the atmosphere, it actually keeps pollution from going into your baby's lungs. And this year, Sierra Club, we will celebrate, along with Bloomberg Philanthropies, that's funded much of our work. We will celebrate 1 million asthma attacks prevented, 100,000 heart attacks prevented, 70,000 unnecessary deaths prevented because we got America to shut down 389 coal-fired power plants. And that's the last thing, and the most important thing is that whether it's Rainbow Push, whether it's the NAACP, whether it's the Sierra Club, please belong to something, because that debate is not really a debate, no more than there was ever a debate over cigarettes being harmful. But industry funds a lot of disinformation, a lot of confusion, and the reality is we can still fight back against the organized money of disinformation of industry if we're organized people. But you got to be organized. That means you got to join something.
I'm going to leave it there because that's the best message that people could have heard today on this day, is to be a part of something. Don't operate in your silo. Get involved, lean in, and take it from Ben. If you lean in, things get done. Ben Jealous, thanks for being with us. Have a great speech this morning. Stay as warm as you can because it's cold in Chicago today. Thanks for being with us, Ben.
Amen.
All right, man.
All right, thank you.
Be well.
Bye now.
All right, bye now.
Thanks.
Always great to talk with Ben. You guys can see why when I met him and talked with him at the DNC, why I was like, he's got his thumb on the pulse. Did you hear what he said? 65,000 factories. However, flip that over to the numbers of preventions that they've been able to foster through the Sierra Club. So part of my message today was taken from what I learned from Dr. King about being involved. And that's why I brought to you some of the clips that we had about the power of your voice, fighting back, being a good person to the best of your ability. But like Ben said, and like DeMario Cooper said, get involved and be a part of something. Please, y'all, don't feel that you're stifled and you can't be a part of something. Get involved. He said it. They both said it. The professor in the clip said it. Get involved. Stand up for something. Be motivated to stand up for your fellow human being. That's what we have to do in this fight. All right, guys. Glad to be with you as always. And on this day, you know what I say? Take a deep breath. Get involved. And make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
In the United States, someone has a heart attack every 34 seconds. We asked Dr. Curtis Rimmerman, a cardiologist at Cleveland Clinic, what is the biggest misconception about heart attacks?
That women don't get heart attacks as often as men. Heart attacks are gender neutral. In fact, women catch up to men in terms of heart attack rates as they get older. And the misperception out there is that breast cancer supersedes heart attacks in frequency, and in fact, that's not correct. Heart attacks are a big player.